In today's video, I spent around 12 hours building 4 different castles. Why? Well, that's a good question. I can't answer it, but please subscribe. So, in 1.17, we have 4 new blocks that I define as stone type blocks, as you mainly find them underground in caves. And those blocks are calcite, dripstone, tuff, and deep slate. Obviously, there's a lot more of the deep slate, but I'm just going to class it all as one block. And with new blocks, it means more opportunity for builds. And also a bit of a challenge for me, as I want to build a castle with all 4 of these blocks. And you know what? I think this one is possibly my least favourite out of all these new blocks. So let's start off with the calcite block. So for this castle, I thought I'd build it quite raised up in the air on top of a sort of cliff face, taking quite a lot of inspiration from castles in like Switzerland, etc. And I soon realised there's not many white blocks that complement this other than diorite, so we used a lot of diorite as well as calcite here. And diorite's not a block I normally use, but I think it works really, really well here. And although this is probably my least favourite of all the new blocks, this is one of my favourite castles that I've built, as it's just so bright in colour and just stands out so much, especially with the granite roof, which I think really contrasts with the whiteness of this new calcite block. And we went for lots of different shapes for this castle. We got this massive cylinder tower, as you can see here, which kind of resembles something from Hogwarts. We got the Great Hall as well on this one. We've got loads of weird different towers, square towers, cylinder towers, all the types of towers you'll ever need. And I think the combination of them all works really well together, and we really detailed this castle, making sure we added loads of different bits protruding out and such. And also, I wasn't just going to leave it on top of a cliff like this. Oh no, we got to fix that by adding in some sort of bits of greenery around, as well as this lake and also some flowers around the outside. And here it is. And honestly, I'm so happy with this design. I think it looks quite amazing. There's so many different shapes and towers, etc., but it all comes together rather well. No matter the angle you look at it, it looks cool. This is probably my least favourite tower, as it's a bit boring, but I just wanted a tall, skinny tower there. But this main one, look at the detail on this. I really went a bit crazy on this with lots of bits of diorite, but it just works. I don't normally like building with diorite, but I think this really works. Also, this new moss block is great, as you can just, spread the moss around, and it kind of just creates this natural spread of it, which is really awesome. But there's no actual entrance up into here, but this would be the gate here, and you come in, and there'd probably be a door somewhere. I didn't actually build a door because I didn't want to do an interior, and I thought I'd rather just leave it without a door, showing the hollow interior. But there you go. I'm really happy with this tuff block, and I think it really works with diorite, especially polished diorite. And you could change the roof around to a different colour as well, but I think the granite just complements it perfectly. So there you go. The calcite castle. I might have to build in this style again in the future. Next up, we have the dripstone block, which also comes with pointed dripstone. For this castle, I wanted to go for an old English style where we don't have masses of towers with pointy roofs, etc. And it took me a while to actually get a shape that I liked with this one. I ended up not going for a square, but instead more of like an oblong shape, and you'll see why in a second. We also did a wall around this castle, whereas the other one was more like one connected building. This one has one massive building and then loads of turrets around the outside. And as you can see here, we used some granite as well as the dripstone and some spruce wood to accent the dripstone block, as we don't actually have anything other than dripstone and pointed dripstone here. And you can see we use the pointed dripstone to sort of like accent the turrets at the top, and I think it works perfectly with here. We've got loads of different towers, and we got the pointy spike bits everywhere, which just add a bit more detail than you would have been able to get, as there's no sort of block like the dripstone point, so it's very unique in that way. And you can see here I copied and pasted a lot of the towers around, but I did make a couple of unique towers on the outside as well. I literally googled different types of castles and just found this kind of castle in a really old drawing of a castle, and I just sort of used that as my reference, and I think this turned out looking rather spectacular. The colours are a lot more bland than the calcite castle, but that's what I wanted. I wanted it to feel like really old. And if I was to probably add anything to this, I would have added some buildings in here, like stables, etc. But I thought I'd just focus on the castle today, as that's what you're here to see. But you can see the main building here is quite symmetrical in how it's laid out, but we've got loads of little bits of detail in here from the granite. Granite goes so well with dripstone. I just love it so much. I think it fits perfectly together. The spruce wood as well does add quite a nice touch, especially on the outside here. I think that works really, really well. The two unique towers have got like loads of bits of detail on them. The gate here, I really like, very high up gate. And the other sort of unique, more cylinder tower at the back here. Just sort of a watchtower, I guess. And I love the pointed dripstone, especially for stuff like this. I think that wall is probably one of my favorite walls I built just because of the dripstone. It works so well as a wall here, and it does look quite menacing. Like you wouldn't want to climb over this wall in case this happens. Ouch, not nice. But there you go, our dripstone castle. Very different to the calcite castle, but still nice in its own way. The next block we use may be a bit tricky, or you could say it's going to be tough. Okay, sorry. Ironically, it was tough. To be honest, this build took me 4 hours to complete as I went for this really dense castle. I don't know why, I just wanted to build in a different style to the other two castles, and I thought of this one, which is mainly a building. The last one had all the walls with all the area in the inside. This one doesn't have a big courtyard, more just a lot of buildings on it, a lot of towers as well. And all the towers are pretty wide as well. As you can see here, we got this sort of main building which we're working on right now, which has got this weird roof. And we went for copper for the roof because that's a new block as well, and I wanted to throw it in. Redesigned it a few times, this one as well, because it's just so tricky with all the different dimensions, etc. And as a block by itself, I'm not a huge fan of turf. I think it works well when you mix it with other things like stone bricks, etc. But the texture of this block, just, I don't know, it's just a bit meh. It reminds me of gravel, and I don't really like the texture of gravel. You wouldn't build a building out of gravel, would you? So personally, I think this castle would look a lot better if we weren't using the tough block. But I used some other blocks to try and complement it. I found that andesite worked really well, as it was kind of similar in texture. And you can see here what I meant by the fact that it's just like one massive building, this thing. You can see all the different roofs, etc. And we've got the one final massive tower on the end here. We've got some circular towers, some square towers, and then we just finished off the ground by putting down some coarse dirt, etc. And although this is my least favorite castle we've built so far, I still think it looks rather good. I do like the copper. I think the copper, especially the really oxidized one, is very, very pretty. There's so many towers on this. It's such a dense castle. Like, it's really quite ridiculous how dense this thing is, how many towers. Like, it is mad how dense this thing is. If you look at it from above, you can kind of see the layout. So many different towers, all compacted into a rather small space. But I really like it. I think it's rather cool. We also managed to fit some diorite in here somehow. I found that that went kind of well with the tough block. Also some lightning rods, etc. But lots of different shapes and sizes. These two towers are the same and these two are the same, but these three are all different. As well as we've got one here as well, and another little section down here. There's just so much stuff in this. It's so dense and so compacted. But there you have it. The tough castle, which was very tough to build. So our final block is the one we've got the most variety for, and that is, of course, the deep slate block. And oh boy, I do like to challenge myself, don't I? This one took another 4 hours to build, and we started off by trying to make it look like it's in an ocean biome and there's just islands sticking out the top. Very tricky with World Edit, it takes a long time, but we got there eventually and we started making the layout of our castle. You can see we got some extra islands off the side, which some towers will be going on, but we started off with the gateway on this other island over here, which has this bridge leading across to the castle itself, which is on its own island, and this is the only way to get to the castle. I guess you could get up by boat and climb up the rocks, but you'd be a bit of an idiot if you did do that. So we've got many towers on this, and it's kind of similar to my castle and my 1000 Days world, except a lot darker in color because of the deep slate. And you know what? I do like the deep slate, but I'm not really a fan of building with very dark blocks, and this is a really dark block. I don't think it makes a good main block, if that makes sense. I feel like it'd be better as, you know, an accent, but I tried my best, and we tried to use some different colors like dark prismarine and some copper as well, and I ended up making a really cool layout in my opinion. This castle is a bit mental, it's a bit all over the place, but it was what I was going for, to have like the spiky pointy towers. In general, just different towers everywhere, one big building, and honestly I think it's worked out very nice. And here is the final product, very much towering over. I also added some trees on since you last saw it. Lots of different weird towers everywhere connecting up in different places. Looks a bit mental, I'm not gonna lie, but lots of arching, these big tall towers here as well, more bridges across, etc, different tower shapes, and I'm very happy with it. I think it looks awesome. It especially looks good from here. If I get back a little bit, ooh, Look at that. Doesn't that look nice? Not my favourite. I still think my favourite is the first one we built, the Tough Castle. But I'm a big fan of this castle. I think it looks rather unique and rather awesome. So there you have it. 4 completely different castles for 4 new blocks that have been added in 1.17. I'm very happy with these. So I hope this has given you some inspiration for your 1.17 worlds. And that is it for this video, unfortunately. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy. Make sure to leave a like and comment, and I shall see you another time. Goodbye.